deck, feel the ocean breeze. Every drink we take puts our minds at ease. From rum to champagne, yeah, we live in the vibe. Sips on ships, baby, it's a whole new ride. Sips on ships, toast to the night. Flavors of the world, everything feels right. Raise your glass, let the good times flow. Sips on ships, let's go, let's go, let's go.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl T, and I have with me
On the go with YOLO.
and we are here today to talk about, actually, we're talking about Royal Caribbean Cruise Bars, giving you reviews, the ins and outs, the vibes, cocktails, and whether it's a place that you should actually entertain yourself when you're on the cruise ship. And today we are focusing on the English pub bars. We can't give a name because they change depending on what ship you're on.
Absolutely.
So I just found that kind of funny, YOLO, because I'm new to Royal Caribbean. I'll say like the last 3 years I've been cruising a little more often because I've been getting offers since my first trip on Royal Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And I just noticed that each ship that I went on, depending on which ship it was, the pub would have a different name. And I will always try to remember, I want to go to this place. And they're like, we don't have it. And I'm like, okay. And then I go and look and go, you do have it, but that's not the name. Yeah. The name is something different. So
just the pub.
But I love what they have. What's been your experiences with the English pub?
I like the pub. One of the biggest things about the pub is they're strong on their one-man band. Mm-hmm. So entertainment wise, they got a good strong following for their one-man band. He might be sitting there with a guitar, he might have a harmonica right here. I mean, he got a little band thing, he's kicking with his foot. It's a one-man band and he is singing and the tunes are popular. Sometimes they're pop, sometimes they're country, sometimes they're borderline rock or whatever, but they are always on point. The singers are usually lively and they're very entertaining when you're in there or when you go and sit. Most of the time when I go to the pub bar, I'm going to get an old fashioned, a Boulevardier. So it's where I would go and get bourbon and scotch if I'm not on Wonder of the Seas where there's a mason jar. So I'm going in the pub to get my bourbon drinks or my scotch drinks or whiskey. That's where I'm going to get those type drinks. But I'm also going in there for beer. So any of you that know me, I love London. I love the London scene. So a Guinness is my go-to beer a lot of times if I'm going in anybody's pub. And so they have a Guinness and I'll have either and whatever ale they're offering or whatever they have popular, or I may have a Guinness. So that's what I typically do at the pub bars. It's usually a pass by. Very rarely do I actually stop and hang out there, but sometimes if the music is good and depending on what the one-man band is playing and his vibe, I may actually sit there and enjoy it. I think the most enjoyable one was on Anthem of the Seas when Dylan and I were in Norway, when we did our Norway cruise. That one was very entertaining. The guy, some really good vocals in there. So I actually had an opportunity to sit and actually listen and enjoy it.
So the one-man band always shocks me because that is the one thing that is consistent. That it's always going to be that. And there's times when that place will be jumping.
Yes.
Like whatever, depending on what they're singing or whatever, sometimes the whole bar is singing. Yep. The first time I actually went in to the English pub was on Wonder of the Seas, and we did a scotch tasting. Like not the pub had a tasting, but I just went and got 2 or 3 of some scotches from my cousins because he does cigars, and so he was like, "Well, show me, cuz, about some scotches and stuff, so I can taste it, so I can, get it at home, and then I can." Drink it with my stogies. I said, okay. And we sat and we did that. And I was just in awe of the quantity and the variety of the actual spirits that they had in there. I mean,
Yeah.
they have your whiskeys, your scotches, your bourbons, your beers, all the various types of beers. And I can tell you, you have experience with beer. I'm not much of a beer drinker, but I am been trying to be open to trying, some of the beers and so forth to just, expand my palate, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
It takes, first of all, you have to like beer. Number one, even the basics of beer in order to really kind of say, okay, if you're not a beer drinker, then no. However, there are other alternatives. There are ales, there are ciders, there are sours that some people will drink. Now, I've never really gotten into the ciders, the different types of ciders and the sours, but I do want to venture down that avenue or down that road and try a few so that I can see if I would like them. There's a channel that I like, and they absolutely love doing ales and sours. So I definitely want to get into that. But your basic beers, you really have to, in my personal opinion, you really have to kind of like the flavor of beer in order to get into it. But if you're not a beer drinker, then try an ale. I'm not an ale, try a cider, and you may like the ciders better. So there are some other alternatives to, drinking your basic ales.
Okay. Well, speaking of the ales and the drinks and the cocktails and the spirits there, they had a very extensive menu. Their menu was almost like a combination of this is what we have, in addition to like some history behind some of the drinks and just in general. What were your thoughts about some of their options that they had, and what was some of your favorites?
As far as options, I rarely order from the menu, but if I do, I'm always going for an old fashioned. That is just going to be my go-to whenever I go to the pub. Outside of ordering a beer, I'm either going to do something along the lines of a Yingling or a Belgian ale, or I'm going to do a Guinness again if I'm doing beer. There's a bourbon barrel type of Kentucky ale that they have as well. That is really, really good. It's really good. I do enjoy that as well. But outside of that, if I'm going in there, I'm either getting whatever type of bourbon, either on ice or neat, or I'm getting an old fashioned, or I may do a Boulevardier depending on the mood, or I may do a Scotch on ice. It just really depends.
Yeah. With me, I have tried all of their, I'll taste all of their cocktails, but I haven't really found one that came out of the pub. I ended up always going back to an old fashioned or Scotch neat or whatever, something along those lines there. But I was in awe of the number of beers that they had in terms of options. And their, the prices, if someone doesn't have the drink package or whatever, their prices to me were decent. They weren't like astronomical or anything of that sort. But
they're your basic $14 drinks. Maybe you find one or two that may be 15, but for the most part, the drinks they're your average price and not a problem. Not too expensive. I think that when you're going, because of the other bars that are on there that offer other specialty type drinks, when you're coming into the pub, they advertise the beer for a reason. They advertise the bourbon and the Scotch for a reason. I mean, you think pub, you think UK, Ireland, Scotland, England, you're thinking UK related. And so those are the things, that those are what you're looking for. In a couple of them, they even, I forget the ships, I want to say more on Quantum Class, they even offer snacks. So you may be able to get like fish and chips or something like that.
Yes, I noticed.
So that is really cool as well. So depending on the time of day that you're going in there, they offer, that opportunity to get a feel for what it's like to be in a real pub, although it's not really a real, not the pub, but it's not like being in the UK. But it is a good time. It's a good vibe, and I don't mind being in there at all. I think we spent a lot of time in there when we were on our Alaska cruise on Quantum. The coffee martini.
They have coffee in there?
That coffee martini was.
Oh, you said it's a coffee martini? Okay, I have to try that.
They had a coffee martini, very similar and very similar. And I know when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago about the Schooner Bar, I really, really like their coffee martini as well. So the pub offered a coffee martini on the Quantum. That was really, really good. My friend and I we had several. I mean, that was our go-to. Besides going to Schooner, whenever we went anywhere, it was either Schooner or the pub, and we always ended up with a coffee martini, an espresso martini. They were delicious, especially if they put the extra, I forget what they put in to make it extra creamy. Like delicious. Good.
Now it's funny because I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee by itself.
Like an espresso martini.
And now, I'm the person that's been going to Starbucks thinking I'm drinking coffee and I'm not. It's like a latte, and the latte is nothing but flavored milk. And you couldn't tell me anything, honey. I had my Starbucks cup and I just thought I was grown. And my daughter was the one that, pretty much called me out and said, you're not drinking coffee.
Kids.
And but I love coffee or tea related cocktails. Like I like the taste with that, and I guess because it offsets it a little bit. But I don't like coffee by itself at all. But you're right with the
I'm a coffee drinker.
Okay. Well, that's good to know that they also have coffee cocktails and stuff in there too. I would have never thought that they would have.
Yeah. That particular pub did. They made me an espresso martini, and it was delicious. Whenever we've gone, it was delicious. So, that was our spot. We hung out in the pub a lot. They did trivia in there. They did again, the one man band always in there. Yeah. But they also do in different lights, depending on what's going on throughout the day, different times of day. They'll do trivia as well in the pub.
Yeah. I remember sitting in there for trivia once before. But they're called something different on every ship. Yeah. And I just wanted to bring this up to show everyone, that, for each of the Royal Caribbean ships that this does live on, of course, this is not an exhaustive list. This is because there's been newer ships that Royal Caribbean has put up there. But basically, the English pub will show yes, on some of the older ships, but most of the ships that have promenades is usually where you'll see the pub living, if they have a promenade. So for me, I've been on the Hoof and Claw. I've been on the Cask and Clipper was my first one.
Yeah.
Bell and Barley, been on that one. And Point and Feather, I've been on there for the Icon. And Ale and Anchor. Those are the only Royal Caribbean ships that I've been on.
The Brass and Bach, the Crown and Castle. The ones you've named. I can't tell what that is. The Hare and Horn, whatever that is for Quantum. I can't tell what that is.
For Quantum, Harp and Horn.
Thank you. The Harp and Horn. The Pig and Whistle on Voyager. I've been in that one. I don't know that I went into the Point and Feather on Icon. I think there was so many other things to try on Icon. I don't remember being in there. But it is a good time to kind of unwind, sit, have an ale, or have whatever manner of cocktail you wish to have. If you order something off the bar, off the menu, then great. But if you already have your booze of choice, like your bourbon or whiskey or rum or whatever you want, they can make anything you want in there. And it's usually a good time. I like the setups better on Quantum class because they sit right in front of the music hall at the very
Oh.
edge of it's not called a promenade, it's an espionage. So it's like right on the edge, right in front of like the music hall. So if you the pub was here and you go around the corner and then there's the entry to the music hall. So I love where they sit, like right on the end. Whereas on some of them, they're in the promenade. So it's like walking past. You may miss it if you're walking down.
And that is true. That is true. That is true. Because if they don't have it, if the storefront doesn't look like a storefront, then you will miss it. So if it, like you said, if it blends in and it sits a little further back, or if the promenade is very wide, like it is on the icon, it's very easy to miss.
Yeah.
It just blends in with the wall. Or you see chairs and it's like, oh, let me sit down. And then you realize, oh, I'm sitting in front of the pub, but you didn't really know it was a pub over there. So most definitely. But
I enjoyed it on most of my sailings. Most recently I enjoyed it on Wonder. I've never and I haven't talked about that sailing a whole lot, but it was an absolutely wonderful time with the Love and Football group. It was a great time. And I have never gotten on the ship and stopped at the bar first. But that is the bar we stopped at. And it was a wonderful time during the time that we were there. Everybody stopped, got a drink, we laughed, we talked, had a good time. Then we went to muster and came back to the bar. So it was just a good time and it's a nice place to sit, like you say, if you're on the promenade and you have
watch.
Yes, it is a great spot to sit right there and people watch and talk to people as they walk by. It was just a really good time. So it's a nice time to get in there and enjoy. If you're there in the late night, then do go sit, have a cocktail, and sit and listen to the one-man band. Most of the time, it's good entertainment.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I would consider it the most underestimated bar in Royal Caribbean.
I would say that too.
I would say that. Yes, that's a definite. Well, I've enjoyed you as always, Yolo. And thank you so much for enlightening me, because being at a pub, I'm not much of a beer person. I have had cocktails, but my go-to is just give me something neat or on the rocks when I step in there. So it was actually refreshing to know that they do offer other things. They have coffee, they have coffee cocktails, they have tea, they have snacks in some of them. Yes. So just learning about all of those. So those of you who are out there, you see an English pub, go in there and see what they have, depending on what ship that you're on. Maybe it's going to be different for every ship, different name, but just know, say English pub, there is one, I'm sure, especially with their promenade. So
get out there, brighten your horizons.
Yes, exactly. And I have to expand this beer palate of mine. I'm just going to taste stuff and go, nah, or ooh, I like that. So that's pretty much it. But anyway, it's been real, yo, and I'll see you on the next one. Again. Thank you. And everyone, you all have a good evening.
Bye everybody.